This is Joe Leigh here for Seconds Out, and I'm currently joined by Fergal Mckenna, father of the two Irish brothers. One of them fighting out of the Golden Boy Promotions, Aaron, and Stevie, of course, fighting out of Tennyson Sports Promotions. Fergal, let's talk about Aaron and Stevie first. What's it like to have two sons doing so well with such big promotions backing them so early on in their professional career?
It's absolutely fabulous. You know, the both boys are tremendous fighters. They put in a lot of hard work. They're so dedicated. You know, even sometimes I look at them in bewilderment as in how they can sustain such a high intensity through their training and a high commitment. You know, because sometimes there's a lot of ups and downs in boxing, and even in the down periods, they still maintain their, you know, their focus and their attitude and their ambitions to become world champions.
Without blowing your own trumpet, would you say a lot of their success and, you know, getting to know the people they have, meeting people in good places is down to yourself?
Yeah, well, I've definitely helped them out a lot and facilitated them in a lot of their sections, but you know, they've created their own pathway as well because they're very unique with the way they box. If you notice, Aaron has a very, very disciplined, technical style which catches the eye of the audience, and then Stephen himself has his own style which really is building up a really good UK and Irish fan base. So these young lads are attracting attention, you know, themselves. I just do the work behind the scenes. You know, I'm the guy that doesn't really be seen, you know, and I like it that way.
Mm-hmm. And specifically, you know, the fact that you've got some good links in America. Aaron's signed to Golden Boy. They've got so much good sparring that I've spoken to them about before. One of them's Tyson Fury. I know Steve caught up with him a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that was an amazing period of time for the both boys, because when we travelled to America we had to go by Mexico and we had to spend 6 days in quarantine there. So instead of you know, messing them out, not knowing what to do, we sourced out Big Munguia and Aaron sparred him, and then as we continued on into Los Angeles, when we couldn't get facilitated in sparring, you know, we got the offer to tie in with, you know, sparring down in Vegas, and that's where we met Big Tyson, and Stephen had a tremendous training camp, you know, for this fight with Josh Taylor.
What do you make of Tyson and the aura he brings to the gym? Was it like really beneficial?
In what way?
You know, when you're just being around him, does everyone learn off him? Aaron in particular, even though he wasn't even sparring with him, was it beneficial for everyone?
Absolutely, because you know, we got to see Josh Taylor, you know, behind the scenes, and what I seen that makes Josh Taylor such an outstanding fighter is the attention that his team brings him. So even though, you know, what we're doing, you know, the McKenna boys along with myself is, you know, is really, really good, I can see for us to reach world level that we need to bring in members, you know, to our team to make us you know, more successful as we climb the ladder. Josh Taylor had his own video analyst guy that he was there in a full-time role just analysing the sparring footage, and they were reviewing it every night after sparring with Stephen. The next day then they would come and correct mistakes they made the day before. Like, he had his own personal physio, and you know, everyone that was involved with him on the team had a specific job. There was maybe you know, his team was built up of about 7 or 8 people. I can see why he's a multiple world champion, because he's a tremendous team. So that opened my eyes to the fact that, you know, to become a world champion, you know, the McKennas aren't going to do it on their own. They need a lot of people that can facilitate them wee small things that make the difference.
Off the McKennas quickly, the big news in boxing currently is about AJ and Fury and the fact that it might not be happening. What do you make of the whole saga with the arbitration and the fact that Wilder has potentially stopped this fight from happening?
Well, it's not surprising Wilder wants to see it being stopped, because he still thinks he's in the picture and he wants to reclaim his world title. The thing is, can he reclaim his world title? After the last performance, I think Tyson Fury need to do a bigger number on him in the next fight, because mentally he's a defeated fighter, and I can't see him bouncing back, because Tyson Fury now knows how to beat him. In the first fight they had, Tyson was very apprehensive in his approach to it, because of the knockout ratio that Wilder carries, but that fear factor's gone now, so Wilder is in a very vulnerable position. I would love to have seen Anthony Joshua and Tyson fighting first, but I can understand why Wilder's doing what he's doing.
Do you think Fury may overlook him the third time, just because of how, other than the 2 knockdowns, how dominant he was in the first one, and then he was definitely dominant in the second as well?
I don't think so. I think the next one, I could see Wilder getting even a bigger hiding, because he's been exposed now, and he's very simple to beat. He just applied pressure with a bigger, stronger, heavier man, and Wilder will really struggle, because he's not really a massive heavyweight. He's a small heavyweight with a really nasty punch. But once you recognise that and take that away from him, he really doesn't have much more to offer.
What do you think about Anthony Joshua now, because he's been put in a really tough position? Do you think Usyk's the perfect fight for him now, or should he wait it out? What do you think the right move is?
Well, he's in a position where he has to wait it out. Everyone just wants to see the two, Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury in the ring together, so it's a matter now of a waiting game, and the minute the date becomes available, making sure that the two men are ready and injury free and ready to participate in probably the biggest heavyweight fight in recent times.
Last of all, back on your sons. Stevie has called out Conor Benn a couple of times now. Why him? Why Conor Benn?
Well, Conor Benn seems to be the guy now that's coming out of the UK with creating a lot of noise. He seems to be a fighter that will really make Stephen look good, because both boys are big reputations in the ring of having KO power, so it's an ideal fight for Stephen in the sense that Conor Benn's there to be knocked out, and Stephen would love to be the first person to knock him out. It would be a massive fight for a UK Irish audience. I can just imagine the days of Nigel Benn and Steve Collins. I remember them fights in my era, and they definitely got a lot of fans and a lot of support, so I could see the same thing materialising with Stephen and Conor.
I do actually have a couple more about Irish boxers in particular. Tommy McCarthy's just come off another great win for the European, defending that. He's called out Chris Billam-Smith a couple of times. What do you make of that fight?
Yeah, well, big Tommy McCarthy is one of these guys that has just come through in recent times. He's a lovely big gentleman, and he's improved a lot in recent times as well. He deserves everything that he gets coming his way, and hopefully Tommy, even after his next few fights, could maybe even secure a world title shot.
James Tennyson unfortunately losing his fight for the IBO World Lightweight title. What do you make of that performance? Do you think he can come back from it?
Absolutely. James Tennyson has been in this position before. He has proven before that he can bounce back. Absolutely. I couldn't see why James, after maybe 2 or 3 fights, to bring him back on, back into things again, couldn't make a big comeback. And I still think there's massive fights out there for James Tennyson. He's a tremendous young fighter. He's still young. I think he's still only 27, so he still has 5 years in boxing. So I would imagine James, knowing him like the way the McKennas, us McKennas know him, having sparred him and that James is, just waiting to make another big statement and another big comeback.
And one of the best to ever do it as well, Carl Frampton, has just recently retired. Did you ever have much involvement in his career? Did you know anything about, did you ever meet him or anything like that?
We met him a few times when the young lads were amateurs and we were coming through the amateur programs. He used to turn out and present trophies, up around Belfast, Lisburn and that. So we met him on numerous occasions. A lovely young man, and was a tremendous influence for my for my lads. Technically, he was a really, really skillful fighter. When he was boxing at his peak, he was unbeatable, and we wish him sincere good luck in his retirement.
Do you have a favourite fight of his?
Carl Frampton, I think the fight I liked was when he fought the guy from the UK. What's his name?
Scott Quigg.
Scott Quigg, yes. We've met Scott Quigg a few times.
Yeah.
Over in Los Angeles, and him and Scott Quigg was a quite intriguing bat because there was a wee bit of
back and forth.
Yeah, bitterness there, and it intrigued the audience. So when they fought first, everyone expected this really, really war. It never really materialised that way, but I think that was my most favourite fight because at that particular time Scott Quigg was rated very highly in the world, and was a fitness fanatic, and everyone thought that Scott Quigg was going to beat Carl, but he didn't. He didn't do it.
Now I'll end it by asking you this, a nice little question. Who is your favourite Irish boxer of all time? And maybe in 5-10 years you can say your sons, but right now, who would you say that is?
Wow, there's a lot of them. What comes to mind, in my year, I like Steve Collins. Steve Collins, I went and watched him fight Eubank down in Cork. Wow. Me and Big Kevin McBride went down to watch that fight, and I'll never forget it. Eubank came down, and made his ring entrance on a big Harley motorbike, and it looked really good. And then when Steve Collins beat him, all the Irish fans started shouting, "On your bike, on your bike." It was funny, but there's so many fighters. You have Wayne McCullough, you have Barry McGuigan. There's a lot of very successful Irish boxers, but I think as well what Barry McGuigan done at his moment in time was special, and he would probably be one of our favourite fighters because he's from Monaghan. He comes from our area.
I guess is it still quite surreal to think that maybe your two sons could be known as great fighters in 10-15 years? It's a long way away, but is it surreal to think that there's a possibility of that?
Well, there's definitely a possibility. You can only get to that level with hard work and dedication, and you always need a bit of luck. So, if everything goes right for the boys and the people around them create the right opportunities and they get their chances, and then if the boys are ready to take them, I could easily see the boys being on the same level and achieving the same accomplishments as what them guys have done beforehand. So that's what we're intended to do, and all we can do is keep plugging away and just hoping that when we get our opportunities that everything goes well. This is boxing and anything can happen, and we're always ready, even though the boys are still developing, coming through the ranks. We treat every fight like a world title, so we're not going into the ring at any stage thinking, oh, this is an easy fight or this is a walkover. We're going in there the same way with the same intent as if it was a world champion.
Big statements there. Thanks for your time, Fergal. Really appreciate it.